I'd like to tell you how to apply those mathematical principles to modeling ecosystems. You know that all over the world we are concerned about our environment, and any type of scientific advancement should have a consciousness about the environment. You know that if a dam is built, you also have to say how many people it will displace and what a damage it will cause to an environment. So no type of science can grow in isolation now. So even if you want to do the mathematical modeling, you need to have a consciousness about the environment. I will define what is an ecosystem, but before that I would discuss with you about what is an environmental education. So this is an awareness all over the world, and in fact this is a subject prescribed even in high school these days to learn about your environment. The objective is to help the individuals and social groups acquire, number one, awareness of the total environment and its problems. Number two, a set of values and feelings of concern for the environment and motivation for participating in environmental protection. So you need to be aware of what is going on around you and to have a knowledge what is going around. This knowledge of the environment and the threats to an environment and skills for identifying and solving environmental problems. If you want to solve a problem, you first have to have a knowledge about what is happening around, and that sort of knowledge should enter into your skills for looking for a solution to the problem using mathematical model. The topic here is about ecosystems, but first of all we have to know what is ecology. Ecology is the study of how organisms live and how they interact with their environment. The organisms can include lots of things. It can include the bacteria, it could include the plants, the trees, the human being, and so on. So all the things come into the broad spectrum of ecology. So ecology is a study of how these organisms live and how they interact with the environment. It comes from two Greek words. Oikos means home and logos is understanding, that is understanding the home or the environment around you. So how do we define an environment for an organism? There are two ways. One is abiotic, which means the physical variables such as the temperature, rain or snowfall, light, nutrients and toxic content of the soil or water body, waves, tides, wind speed, etc. So all these things come under the category of abiotic because they are all physical variables. You know that we talk about air pollution, water pollution, etc. All these come under the category of environment. So the next one is a biotic environment. A biotic environment would include the other organisms, like the effect of other organisms like competition, predation, herbivory, pollination and seed dispersal, etc. So these are all very biotic, and how an organism lives with other organisms. But in ecology, the biotic things also interact with abiotic, and the environment would include both biotic and abiotic. So together all these things are known as the food web. So a complete network of feeding interrelations among species in an ecosystem. So in other words, an ecosystem would include everything. It would include something like a nutrient, it would include temperature, it would include the characteristics of the soil if it is the terrestrial organism, or if it is a aquatic organism which is to do with water body, it would deal with the water body, its characteristics. So this, the entire system together is called as an ecosystem. Ecosystem refers to a whole community of organisms and its environment as one unit. So just as we did with the system of equations, you know that here again a system would definitely lead us to dealing with number of ecospecies. So an ecosystem is a biotic and functional system or unit which is able to sustain life and includes all biological and non-biological variables in that unit. So this lecture I would concentrate only on aquatic ecosystem, that is the ecological species which are chosen to live in a water body, and this would include the open sea, the ponds, the lakes and the rivers. So what makes us think that we can model these ecological species? I must remind you that it is not very easy. is not as easy, at least, as the physical systems, whereas there is certain amount of definiteness. But in a species, it is very difficult to see about how a fish, what is the route a fish will take to move, etc. It is not so easy to model this. But what gives you an incentive, or what gives you an encouragement to model an aquatic ecosystem? Because the features common to all the biological or ecological species is the interaction of species, about the prey predator interaction, which is true for any biological population. It is also true for aquatic ecosystems. And the second thing is diffusion. The fishes move, all those small fishes in a water body keep moving, and these are two things which are already studied in the context of chemical species. This is the beauty of mathematical modeling. A set of mathematical ideas or a set of mathematical equations which are utilized in one context can be easily lifted to use in another context. The idea of interaction or the idea of diffusion is not a new thing for modeling people. These ideas are extensively used in the context of chemical mass transfer, or when two substances interact with each other and form a new substance, or when the molecules move, the idea of diffusion comes. So, these are ideas which are very well utilized in modeling mass transfer or heat transfer problems in chemical engineering, and that can be easily utilized for these movement and interaction of the ecological species. So, what is diffusion? The diffusion is the random movement of small particles, which is again used in chemical engineering, but again can be lifted in ecology. Distribution of organisms in a geographical region, their movement and the movement of nutrients. Active migration of individuals. Why mathematical modeling? Direct measurement of the components of the ecosystem is difficult and expensive. Data from the ships is sparse and patchy. Data is from small number of times series solutions. That is, what is exactly done in an ecosystem is people go in the boats or ships at regular intervals and collect data about the ecosystems. So, there is not a continuous data. Most of the deterministic model would require that the population will have to be a continuous population. That is what leads you to the model of a differential equation. The satellite data provides information on the surface distribution of one component of the ecosystem. So, this is again an incentive for modeling, because the satellites are now giving you more technological data. The technology is improving, and so the amount of data we are going to get is going to be very good, and so naturally quantifying the biological data is going to be easy using mathematical modeling. So, this is an anticipation that more and more technology improves and more data is available, we should be able to do better mathematical modeling. But then satellite gives you only the picture on the surface of the water body, and so what happens, at least at this point of time, at deep places in the rivers, this is yet to be undertaken. So, the mathematical modeling is the only alternate solution at this point of time to study the whole phenomena, and also quantifying the exchange of biogenic material between different environment is possible, and if calibrated and verified, if your model is good and it has verified previous observations, it is possible to use it to predict. So, we are producing biological distributions at space and time scales with finer resolution. Finer resolutions means, that is, you go in the shape and get observations at a period of 1 day or 1 week, whereas if you get the solution as a function of time, you have finer resolution, that is, you could even predict with respect to seconds or minutes. Synthesizing diverse data sets. People collect data at different points of time. Different groups go in boats and collect data, but using mathematical modeling we can synthesize or connect all these data and get useful information, and interpolating between observations. You know that in numerical analysis we know how, given a data at sparse or discrete intervals, we can make interpolation and get the intermediate result. That is, if you have made the observations once in 5 days, and if you want later on any observation within those 5 days, you could do interpolation. Separating the role of different processes in producing observed distributions. In real world problem, it is not very possible to separate out the individual effects. Supposing it is a windy day and the winds are disturbing the things, it is very difficult to make observations. And it is also the individual effects. Is it something happening due to wind, or is it due to something else? It is very difficult. Whereas in a model you can put certain terms to 0, like for example you can consider a model without the effect of wind and study the problem and then introduce the effect of wind to understand the special part played by the wind. So, this sort of searching for something very relevant to a problem is not easy in a real world. So, making predictions, of course every model strives to do this, that we like to make predictions of future conditions given the present conditions. It is a satellite picture. It was taken in 2002. This is one of the things which gives you a lot of incentive to go for mathematical modeling, because we are going to have extensive data taken from the satellite. You see this picture, it's the blue, I am starting from below, it shows the deep water which is listed here. Blue corresponds to deep water and the maroon corresponds to shallow water region, and submerged weed and free floating, these are the planktons which are very near the fresh waters or the banks, the emergent weeds and island vegetation. Of course this data is on the surface of this lake, but nevertheless it gives you a lot of encouragement to see that more and more sophisticated data comes about how these biological distributions are in the lake. The corresponding models can be improved and we can validate our model using all this data. I am going to bring back those ideas here to show you how the validation is done. We now know that the logistic equation and how that curve looks, that it has a sort of exponential growth and then it stabilizes to what is known as its carrying capacity. So, does this represent a real world problem? So, this is a graph showing that all these rounded things correspond to the data taken from experiments, that the bacteria were placed in a nutrient medium, and this was observed for 10 days. Measurements were taken every day and they were plotted, the population of bacteria with respect to time. So, this time here corresponds to number of days. So, this goes on multiplying and is almost 400 times, when on the 6th day the number of population is almost 400 times. And this is remarkable that the logistic curve falls exactly on these curves, that the data for growth of bacteria is fitted excellently with a logistic curve. So, this is a success story, that if we make a model and we make corresponding experiment and the experimental results completely matches with of course we have to choose the parameters properly, but it is possible to get a complete solution which completely tells you about what happens during an experiment, but we may not be so successful all the time. This is a model, this is the logistic curve you are familiar with, but we have two types of populations which were observed for 3.5 years to 2 years. So, this is the population growth of the grain beetles Rhizopertha dominica and Calandra orziae on a wheat medium for 3.5 years and 2 years. So, this is the abscissa is about the time which is in terms of weeks, and it tells you how the population is growing. So, you see that the initial population is almost like a logistic curve, but it does not saturate, but it is oscillating. So, there is no tendency for either population to flow a logistic curve as theory dictates. Instead, each population oscillates quite wildly. So, as I said earlier, it is not a so successful story, but nevertheless there is some lessons to be learnt. So, it corresponds to the logistic curve at least in the beginning, but later on it oscillates, but it also oscillates about a mean, that could be the carrying capacity. The population oscillates, but it oscillates around a carrying capacity. So, this gives you an encouragement that you could build upon the logistic curve and improve this model so that it does not show a plateau like the way you expect in a logistic curve, but you are able to reproduce these sort of oscillations around the saturation. So, now go to how do we model aquatic ecology. In ecological modeling you have to go for the food web. So, what is a food web? We start with the basic, the nutrients. The nutrients in a water body will correspond to nitrogen or phosphorus, and the first thing which is called as the primary production, that is the algae, is called the phytoplankton, and that would rest on the sunlight. It needs photosynthesis and carbon dioxide, and these are phytoplanktons which are actually the prey for the zoo variety, that is the zooplanktons and the omnivorous fish. These are our primary consumers. They consume the phytoplanktons, they consume organisms that feeds directly on producers. So, these two give rise to the carnivorous fish which feeds on these two, So that is an higher organism. The secondary consumer, that organisms that feed on the primary consumers. So this is the food web. Of course, you can increase this food web by introducing man, but in general an aquatic food web is, this is the simplest of the aquatic food web. But if you ask a biologist, he would say that there are 100 varieties of zooplanktons, 100 varieties of phytoplanktons and 100 varieties of fishes. But that would be a very ambitious thing to introduce all those numbers into our mathematical model. One starts with a simple model by grouping all the phytoplanktons into one variety, all the zooplanktons into one variety and the fishes into another variety. An environment would include the biotic ones like the zooplanktons, the phytoplanktons, fishes, etc., and abiotic ones like the nutrients, the nitrogen and phosphorus. So this is almost the same food web presented to you in a different way. You have the sunlight and that's basically responsible for the phytoplanktons. So the dissolved organic matter released by the phytoplankton and decomposing organism is used by the bacteria. So this violet thing corresponds to the non-living or dissolved organic matter, but this goes into the cilia and the zooplanktons and then they go to the fish. So this is again the food web, and these organisms may be eaten by zooplanktons, and in this way the dissolved organic matter enters the grazing food chain represented here by the fish. So I now show you some of the microscopic pictures of the phytoplanktons. A variety of 5 live phytoplankton species from the Atlantic Ocean. They include chain forming diatoms, large single called diatoms and dinoflagellates. So this is again another picture, cross sectional picture of diatoms, dinoflagellates and diatoms again. The zooplanktons, this corresponds to the zoo variety. The most common forms are copepods and their larvae. This picture also includes the larvae forms of starfishes and their relatives. The zooplankton again, this is several times magnified corresponding to their actual size. So now that was the introduction about how the ecological system is and what is the basic model which would be including the basic things. The basic ecological species which will come into an aquatic ecological model would be the nutrients, the phytoplanktons and the zooplanktons. So the next question is, if we are going to model it mathematically, what is the f of p? There are 3 types of interactions. F of I is wy, and type 2 is f of I is chosen as wy by y plus d, and the type 3 response which is f of y is w into y square by y square plus d square, where y corresponds to the prey, where d measures protection to prey offered by the environment and is the population of the prey, at which per capita functional response assumes half its maximum value w. So again the functional response would be this is corresponding to the logistic curve, this is an exponential or the linear relationship which will correspond to an exponential growth, and how an invertebrate will grow with the vertebrate, that the S-shaped curve. So this is called as the Schaeffer's minimal model as an example for models with functional response. So it is an ordinary differential equation and it is a system because P corresponds to the phytoplankton and Z corresponds to the zooplankton. The first term is similar to what we saw in Malthus equation. The dP by dt is proportional to P and this is the proportionality constant, and the constant is chosen from the type 2 response where n stands for the nutrition. This is for as the crowding effect, and this would be the interrelationship between phytoplanktons and zooplanktons. So P is the phytoplankton biomass, Z is the zooplankton biomass, and F is the maximum predation rate of the present fish stock on zooplankton. The zooplanktons are eaten by the fish, and so this term represents, this is the type 3 response I showed you earlier. So F is a vertebrate preying on a invertebrate, so that is the function which is very different from the type 2 response which is given this way. There is a square here. These functions are chosen from observations and by curve fitting. R is the maximum growth rate of the phytoplankton and C is the competition coefficient of the phytoplankton. So there is minus C into P square, the competition or because of the overcrowding. M is the rate of zooplankton mortality, which is a minus sign. This dz by dt is proportional to z with minus m. So each term is separately done and then added to give a complete picture, and these two equations are coupled and there cannot be exact solution to this problem. We need, because it is highly nonlinear on the right hand side, we have to have numerical solution to solve this problem for p as a function of time and z as a function of time. In other words, what do we look for here? We look for how the planktons and zooplanktons will coexist. How will p grow as a function of time and how will z grow as a function of time? You imagine this situation. The phytoplanktons, the plant variety, are the prey for the zooplanktons, which are the zoo variety, but the zoo themselves are forming a prey for fishes. So this is the term which gives you about the minus f into z square over z square plus z square. That gives you the term for how zooplanktons themselves are prey for the fishes. So I now explain these terms in more detail. So this is, I reproduced this equation for you again. So the first term, this one with a negative sign, so that actually corresponds to a restricted growth, minus az into p over p plus ha, that is a decrease. It has to be a decrease, isn't it, because it has a negative sign. A decrease in phytoplankton density due to grazing by the zooplankton. This a corresponds to the maximum grazing rate of zooplankton on phytoplankton, and ha is the half saturation constant of the functional response of zooplankton population to phytoplankton population. It must be increasingly becoming easy for you to understand that you cannot do all these models without a proper understanding of the relationship between phytoplankton and zooplankton. So these sort of models need an interaction with a biologist. That is the essence of this lecture. In fact, I would like to emphasize that mathematical modeling cannot be done in isolation. If you want to make a proper, each one of these terms have to be chosen correctly, and they can be chosen correctly only if you know the functional response. What is a functional response? The functional response is the way the planktons are chosen by the zooplankton. The zooplanktons do not consume everything which is given to them. They have a choice. That would come in the next term. For example, you have the first equation, you have az into p over p plus ha. This is the last for the phytoplanktons. But do all of them go into the zooplankton population? No. You have a factor E here. That E is the prey assimilation efficiency of the zooplankton. That is, the zooplankton does not eat everything available to it. It makes a choice. That is, the parameter E gives the efficiency with which the zooplankton can derive nourishment from what it has consumed of the phytoplankton. This is a fraction, and that is not exactly whatever is available. The loss for the phytoplankton is not a total gain for a zooplankton, it is only a fraction of it. So the last term in the second equation is the effect of fishes. If the fishes are also in the medium, they will prey on the zooplankton. This term corresponds to the decrease in zooplankton density due to the predation by fish. So here f is the maximum predation rate. That is, these fishes, we do not have an equation for fishes. Did you notice that? We have only two equations, one to represent the rate of growth of the planktons and the other one the rate of change in the zooplankton population. So if we know the number of fishes and they are not reproducing, so f is a constant, the number of fishes. So here f is the maximum predation rate of the present stock of fish on zooplankton, and hz is the half saturation constant or functional response of fish density to zooplankton density. So each one of these terms in these equations have to be very carefully chosen. If you make a mistake here, you make a mistake in finding the solution as well as making some conclusions. So this is based on the numerical solution. As I told you earlier, the equations are very nonlinear. It's not easy to get a correct exact solution. So we make a numerical solution, and this is what it shows. This is the population corresponding to time. The first one corresponds to the phytoplankton, with it just goes a dip and then it oscillates a bit but then stabilizes very quickly. And the zooplankton responds to that. It responds, it again peaks, and then it really again saturates into another plateau. So it partly looks like a logistic curve, but not exactly, but some population can go on oscillating and they would again still live together. So the next thing is about, again as we did earlier, we have to include the spatio-temporal models leading to a system of partial differential equations. This is about one-dimensional model. That is, I do not introduce the concept that the species can go in all directions. So, it is not just change with time, it is also change with species. This is a fundamental equation we have to understand before we write a system of equation corresponding to different species and also 3-dimensional space. So, the solution, as we discussed earlier, is S of x t is in terms of an exponential with an argument which can be positive or negative. If alpha is greater than d pi square by L square with n equals 1, that is the first eigenvalue, then at least the first term will increase exponentially. If S is identified as a phytoplankton, that is, if we are talking about just phytoplankton which grows like a Malthusian equation and it also diffuses, this is just an extension of the Malthusian equation, including the ability of the phytoplankton to diffuse, then what do we see? We see that when alpha is greater than d pi square by L square, there can be increased exponential growth, and what we usually see like a phytoplankton bloom, that is, the whole lake can be filled with the phytoplanktons. So, that is not a very good situation for a lake, because if the algae or the phytoplankton fill the lake, then there cannot be much sunlight penetrating into the lake, and that is the system situation which needs to be avoided. So, this sort of models can be used to see when is that, then the whole lake will be filled with planktons. That can happen this. So, taking this L this way, L square is greater than d pi square by alpha square. We see that there is a critical length when L is equal to pi into d alpha whole square root. This is a critical length. If this length is exceeded, or if this length is violated, the length x equal to 0 to L is less than this value, then this will be negative, which means that the plankton population will be totally extinct. For large times this is negative, so exponential of a negative quantity, so it will go to 0 as t tends to infinity, which means that the whole species will be extinct. So, that gives you a critical length that you have to have a population up to a certain length, then only there will be a growth. So, we now can pass on to the diffusion for two planktons. This is phytoplanktons and the zooplanktons, two species. You are familiar with these terms which were shown earlier. What is new here is the diffusion coefficient. The delta p by delta t will diffuse with d into delta 2 p by delta x square. I will use the same d in both these problems. You can have two different d's. The diffusion coefficient of the phytoplankton in water body may be different from the diffusion coefficient of the zooplankton. In fact, they are different because the zooplankton moves very fast and its diffusion is much higher than the way the phytoplanktons will diffuse. So, this now will have not only the conditions on time, but they also have to have conditions on space. You know that you have a second order in space, you need two conditions on space variable. So, delta p by delta x is 0 and delta z by delta x is 0 at the boundaries, which means 0 flux at the boundary. What is flux? Flux means the particles or the populations will not cross the boundary, they will not move away from the boundary. This is Pascal's model with switching. So, this is how the models are improved, that is, you started with a model with one species and then introduced the diffusing species. This is very essential in ecosystem modeling, because especially in aquatic ecosystems and things are so mobile, the diffusion is an important thing. The phytoplanktons will move, the zooplanktons will move, and if you want to do the switching, that is, if the zooplanktons do not like the phytoplanktons, they would look for other species. This is H star with a positive sign, this is minus m into minus H star, that is a positive sign. So, if it does not get enough of the phytoplanktons which are available, it looks for another food and it makes a switching, and so we include the extra term. So, this is how models are improved, the new concepts, the new species coming in, you either make one more equation. For example, we have been dealing with only phytoplankton and zooplankton, but you also can have one more equation for nutrients. That is again very important, is not that? Because once your nitrates in the water body will change, because the rivers are bringing water into the lake. When the rivers come, they bring in lot of nutrients. So the nutrients cannot be constant. That is what we did in the equation. We kept the nutrient as constant. But in the real system, you know the nutrients are constantly changing. So that again has to be brought in. And there is provision in the ecosystem, because that is how we define. We said that the ecosystem will consist of both biotic and abiotic. So we can have another equation for nutrients as well. So this is about how the populations were changed, which we saw earlier. There can be an oscillation, like we saw even in the last lecture, how species adjust to live together. They know how to coexist. So things keep on oscillating. Something the prey will be more, something the predator will be more. So this is an oscillation which can be observed. But if you disturb the parameters under certain conditions, things can go chaotic. I showed these two pictures to show you that under certain conditions, when things go haywire, you know that in a real problem things do go haywire. You had a tsunami, you had cyclones, you do have a lot of things which are not usually happening. So certain situations, even these can be brought into the model, and this is an indication of this, that time series plots for the model at x is equal to 0, that is at the initial space, and at 0.85, the parameter values used to generate those time histories are these. That is what was looking very periodic at one instant and one space can become very chaotic at another place, that is at x is equal to 0.85. It can go very chaotic, and that would depend on the parameters which occur in the problem. So if you increase this model, that if you want to take account of the nutrients, this is how it would be. You will have to make a flow chart first. The basic nutrients, they get mixed, and these are taken by the arrows. Please see the arrows properly. These are taken by the planktons. This arrow, nutrients going to the phytoplanktons, but the phytoplanktons which are dead, the ones which are excreted, they would again come and they become a regenerated nitrates. These phytoplanktons are fed to the zooplanktons. See the arrow, the phytoplanktons go into the zooplankton and they go to higher predation. It goes into fishes, and the fishes are eaten by human beings, etc. So it goes into the other higher predation. So these zooplankton, due to their mortality, they can again contribute to the nitrates. This is how the organic materials grow. There is a recycling going on, and this is how we have to model. The nitrates will not be fixed. You may have, even in a static pond, you may have a fixed nutrient, but that is not fixed. When the phytoplanktons die, they change the concentration of the nutrient. Again, when the zooplanktons die, they again change the concentration of the nutrients. So if you model this system, you write 3 independent equations. So we graduate from phytoplankton to zooplankton, and then write one more equation to write this ecosystem. This is very well known as the NPZ model, or the basic equation for the nutrient phytoplankton zooplankton model. This is one of the basic fundamental system of equations for aquatic ecosystems. It starts with the basic, that is dN by dt, the rate of change of nutrient. I first give you the word equation so that you will later realize how it has to be changed into a mathematical equation. The dN by dt is the first term with a negative sign, is the production of phytoplankton. The phytoplankton would take the nutrients, and that is why that would be the loss for nitrate, so that is a negative. The regeneration is when the phytoplanktons or zooplanktons die, they add to the nutrients, so that is a plus sign. External sources, so when the rivers, etc., when they flow into a lake or a body, water body, they bring in external sources. For example, industrial pollution, which we call as the polluted inorganic material, but there can be a good nutrient for those weeds which are in a water body. The production, dP by dt, production of phytoplankton, this term corresponds to the Malthusian term. This is the rate of production multiplied by the phytoplankton, minus grazing by zooplankton, that is the loss, and the minus mortality losses. It would die and then it would sink, but then that would go into the regeneration of nitrates. The dz by dt, that is the rate of change of the zooplankton population, it gains by grazing on the phytoplankton, but it is again grazed by the higher species, that the carnivores. So, that is the negative sign, and again that would die the mortality losses, but these mortality losses would go into the nutrients. This is the recycling which goes on in these basic equations. So, N stands for nutrients, Phi for phytoplankton and Z for zooplankton. So, we saw that these equations have to be, these word equations have to be model, and all that we have seen earlier I have given you how to choose the right hand side. So, it is not very easy, but then it comes by practice. As I said, and I have been emphasizing, what is most important in mathematical modeling is the interaction with the biologists or the ecologists. That is very, very important. You need to be very aware of the existing data, what is available, how do these species interact, their intrapersonal relationships which has to be brought into the model, and it is not done in one day, you need to go on improving your model. So, you need to be optimistic, you will hit right ultimately by improving your functions. So, what do we learn from this? The conclusions are the populations are never homogeneous, they are isolated from other influences, environment is not uniform in time or space. So, our models have to take account of the change in time as well as the change in space. There is still merit in qualitative analysis through differential equations, because we can hope for some indication as to the effect of a few factors and their influence included in the model. That is, you should not jump to the fact that you should get the correct solution. It is not always possible using a mathematical model to get the correct answer. You may not get the exact answer, but you will know qualitatively, does this population increase exponentially or does it decay, will it be extinct, if it will be extinct, in how many years it will be extinct. You get lots of indication, not exactly the exact number, but it shows the trend. That again will be very important in understanding the ecological system. The parameters are different to measure in specific instances, but qualitative conclusions can be deduced. The major merit of a mathematical modeling is the qualitative conclusions. But lastly, this is the good news for people who are interested in mathematics. Mathematics has always grown because of interacting with other subjects. The effect of biological modeling on mathematics is very profound. Variety of questions of existence, uniqueness, stability and convergence of solutions are addressed. Enthusiasm for developing the models provide motivation for some beautiful mathematical analysis and results. That is, mathematics can enrich itself by interacting with biology. That is, once you try to apply mathematics to any physical or biological problem, you see that your mathematical tools are not adequate. So, you have to improve your mathematics, and that brings in new mathematical techniques. So, I would like to conclude here, and I hope after this lecture you would take more interest in taking up a real world problem which is next door to you and try to convert that problem in terms of mathematical equations. Thank you.